right. Likutei Moharan Terevov, Kreis Yeshua, call Yeshua. So, yes, Terevov, Kreis Yeshua. We are still, towards the end of Siman Hey. So we were talking about, the main principle we're talking about is that by doing tshuva, giving kol HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you are zecher to a divine covenant. This happens when you hear your derision and your shame, and you're keeping quiet. What happens is that you are bringing about a situation that you become, something that can spiritually be described as the form of the letter Aleph. The keeping quiet is demima, doim lashem. You become the lower nekuda. Ha'aretz hadom raglai. The land is the support of my feet. Hadom, to the demima. You become the lower nekuda. It's called chirik. This livness asapir. By the fact that you are embarrassed and your face changes colors, it's not a superfluous thing. What it actually means to say that you have entered a spiritual state of rakia, of vav, of firmament, and that firmament is closing off the next point, which is nekuda elyoina. That's the upper point, which is the kavod ha'elyon, kavod Elokim hastel dovel. The divine honor must be concealed. So by doing tshuva, all these things are happening. Now the Rebbe explains here that there is a symbiotic relationship between the upper nekuda and the lower nekuda. The upper nekuda is called sun, because that's the source, that's the cause. And the lower nekuda is called the moon, because that's the recipient. Yes, it's called the effect. The upper nekuda is called Moshe. That's why the Gemara says, Pnei Moshe Pnei Chama, the face of Moshe is like the sun. And the face of Yeshua is like the moon. And the Gemara, very obliquely says, Oy lo isabusha, oy lo sachapo, woe for that shame, supposedly saying that Yeshua didn't get to the Madrega of Moshe. And he talks about the Indian that Lo'ilam Haba, tzaddikim are going to be embarrassed that they didn't reach the Madrega of their friends, of their peers. Nevertheless, there's a secret in here, which means that the Indian of Yeshua and Moshe, the symbiotic of Yeshua and Moshe, the elevation between being a Yeshua all the way to being a Moshe requires a process of hearing your shame quietly, swallowing your pride quietly. Oilo isabusha, oilo isachepo. Pnei Moshe kipnei Chamo, pnei Yeshua kipnei Levana. And this it says like this. And he says, Va'avav shebetoch aleph. First we know Moshe is the upper yud and Yeshua is the lower yud. What about the vav? It says, Va'avav shebetoch aleph. And that vav which is inside the aleph, that slanty line in the aleph, rakia. This is the aspect of the firmament. This is the shema, the rakia. Hu b'chinas oil. This is like a tent. Very same way that a tent allows you to be outside, and protects those inside from the blistering heat of the outside. Same way, the vav inside the aleph protects the lower yud from the blistering radiation of the sun, of the nekuda elyoina, of the kesser. K'moshe Kosev, as it is said, v'Yeshua binun, which is the law of Nekuda, l'yom ishtachoel. He doesn't move from outside the tent. He doesn't come from outside of the tent. And what is alluded in this pasuk is that Yeshua, who is the lower Nekuda of the Aleph, received the light of Moshe, who represents the upper Nekuda of the Aleph, through this filter that protected him, which is the oil, that's the tent. Which, as we said, this is the union of Zeir Anpin, that's the 6 spheres. That's the Vav inside the Aleph. Vav, the gematria of Vav is 6, right? It represents the 6 Sefirot of Zeir Anpin, from Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, right? That is connecting between the Keser above it to the Malchus below it. The oil and a tent, says Rabbeinu, Urakia. It's an aspect of Rakia, of firmament. As it is said, how do we know that? Moshe Kosov in Yeshayahu. It is said Mefurish, Hanateh Kadok Shamay, that the Kadosh Baruch Hu leans like a thing covering the heavens, the Shamayim, the skies, Ve'imtachem Ke'oel Lashevet, and he stretches it like a tent, and then it's which to sit. So you see that Shamayim is called oil, is a bechina of a tent. Because Baruch Hu, spread the Shamayim like a tent to be ready for people to sit underneath it. So here you have a proof that Shamayim are an aspect of oil, of tent. Okay, now we have another raya, another proof. Chtiv noite Shamayim k'yiriyah. That one that pitches the Shamayim, the heavens, k'yiriyah, like a piece of cloth. And this alludes to oil. How do you know the Yiriyah talks about an oil? We have in Shmois, Yiriyah Sa'oil. The flap of the tent. So he says, Note Shamayim K'yiriyah, pitching the Shamayim like flaps, of cloth, of material. And you see, Yiriyah Sa'oil, this is the flaps of the tent. That the tent is made out of flaps, of pieces of cloth, of yarns. So now we have proven the Shamayim are the cloth of the tent. And the Shamayim allude to Zeir Anpin, that connects the Keser to the Malchus. Side the Keser, which is above the Shamayim, to the Malchus, which is the Aretz. In other words, what the Shamayim actually do, what the heavens actually do, is they let through the light of the Keser, that the filter that lets through the light of the Keser, which is Moshe, to the Malchus, which is Yeshua. So now you know like this, that when a person does tshuva, and he acquires the quality of the Aleph, this interrelations, which is the connection of the upper Nekuda to the lower Nekuda, what he does, he is creating a unification, a relationship between the sun, which is the Keser, which is Nekuda Eliyah, and the moon, which is the lower Nekuda, the Lavara, the Malchus. And so that the lower Nekuda can receive the Shefa from the upper Nekuda, because there's a Shamayim between them, there's a filter, that makes sure that only the right amount comes through. Mimele comes down to the world, the spiritual sustenance, a tremendous Shefa Eloki, both spiritual sustenance and physical sustenance. And this is how the person is actually creating a yichud, a unification of Moshe and Yeshua. Because the tzaddik himself is B'chinas Moshe. He's totally concealed. We don't understand anything about the tzaddik. We know, Baruch Hashem, Rabbeinu is tzaddik, but we have no asaga in Rabbeinu. It's very difficult for him. But the minute that there is a yichud between Moshe and Yeshua, the minute that we created, an active give and take situation, the tzaddik and the Talmud, the Moshe and Yeshua, by keeping quiet and accepting Hashem, we're creating this kind of active, live wire relationship going on. The Talmud, which is B'chinas Yeshua, us, B'chinas Yeshua, can receive from the Rav. And then the Talmud himself can let everybody else know what the Rav is saying. And you can teach others what the Rebbe has taught us, so that everybody, B'ezrat Hashem, can come close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, if you remember, I'd like to remind you, in case you don't remember, that every single aspect of the 10 spheres, every sphere, besides having one of the names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu designated to it, it also has one of the vowels designated to it. The vowel of the Malchus is Chirik. Right? The vowel of the Keser is Segol. There's an inner reason why the vowelization of the Keser is Segol, these 3 Nikudas. How is Keser, how is Segol being written? The 2 Nikudas and 1 in between them. The Keser, the Nikudas Keser, really includes in it the Chochmah and the Bina that come after it. Because there's nothing in the Chochmah and Bina that isn't in the Keser first. There is another Bechina which connects the Chochmah and the Bina, that's the Das, right? It comes afterwards. So a very interesting diamond shape. You have the Keser on top, Chochmah and Bina, left and right. And then the Das again is in the middle. When we are saying, if you remember, when we are enumerating the spheres, sometimes when we are mentioning the Keser, we're not mentioning the Das, right? We're mentioning the Das, we're not mentioning the Keser. And we said, when do you mention the Keser Chochmah Bina? When you look at it from the outside, the situation from the outside, it's Keser Chochmah Bina. But within the reality of the 10 spheres, the Keser really belongs to Elbes and Ketz. It doesn't belong to because we said the Keser is the promise of what is going to be. Inside, it already is. The promise is something happened before. So now the Keser is being mentioned. So that Segol of the Keser comes to tell you, comes to be Miramas, that the Keser includes in it the Chochmah and the Bina. Just you should know. And this is where you go from. Vinei Kisa Elyon. Now we're talking about the supernal throne. Hainu Nekuda Elyono. That's the upper Nekuda of the Aleph. Nechlekes leShloisha Tipim. It is divided to 3 drops. The B'chinas Keser, the Inyan of Keser, in a very real sense, is the essence of Tshuva. The Tshuva tzorichet b'shloshet noim. Tshuva has to be with 3 conditions. Kmo shekosov, in Yeshayahu, pen yira be'eno, lest he see with his eyes, uve'ozno of Yishmo, and with his ears he will hear, and his heart will understand, and he will come back. which is Keneged Chochma Bina V'Das. I'll tell you what, let's just stop here, and we'll continue that tomorrow, because these are very, very deep in Yolim. And